Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Saman Kadir Ahmed, and as chair of the MCDCC, I want to thank everyone for joining us here this evening. As many of you know, State Senator Ariana Kelly from District 16 stepped down from her position late last month. She is on to brighter pastures as the head of the Women's Commission for Maryland. She was appointed when she succeeded State Senator Susan Lee, who is now Secretary of State. So, we have some D16 members that are doing amazing things for Marylanders, I think at a statewide level, really, and really setting the stage on so many critical issues that are impacting our communities. So we're deeply thankful for their service. We wish them the best. And with that said, that brings us to a vacancy for the District 16 state senator. We have one applicant for that, which is Delegate Sara Love, who is currently representing District 16. And I really would like to thank the District 16 Democratic Club for always stepping up. Pursuant to our rules, we make sure that we have always tried to have a forum, a town hall type of environment where we can do an event that really allows constituents of District 16 or any other district to be able to hear from all of the candidates, pose their questions. And it's also a listening opportunity for MCDCC members as we deliberate in making this decision early next month. We would like to remind everyone that there's still time after this event today to submit letters of support. There is a Google form that is currently circulating, or you can email office@mcdcc.org or vacancy@mcdcc.org. There's a variety of different ways of submitting those letters of recommendation, and I would ask Andrew to please drop that into the chat for everyone, for those that are looking to send in a recommendation for any candidate, particularly in this instance, we only have one candidate, Delegate Love. So with that said, thank you to District 16 for always stepping up, Karen Brito, former chair extraordinaire, wonderful things about her to this day and her tenure. And we really love the support and she provides to the party, and always just being, ready to help in any way possible. And to Elliot Greenwald for spearheading the District 16 Democratic Club. I do want to take an opportunity to recognize delegates Mark Corman and Sarah Wolick, who are joining us today, as well as MCDCC members from District 16, Jim Michaels and Teresa Warman. There's a variety of other members as well, but we are currently working in a webinar format. For those that have questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A. But I believe that there was an opportunity to submit questions in advance as well. So with that said, I'm at my 5 minutes. So thank you, everyone, and I'll yield my time back to Elliot and Karen.
Okay. Thank you, Saman. This is thank you, Saman. This is Elliot Greenwald, and it's a pleasure to welcome everybody on behalf of the District 16 Democratic Club. I want to welcome everybody to the candidate forum. As you know, this is the first step. Saman mentioned the second step, which is you could write letters of recommendation to the Central Committee. And then the final step before it goes to the governor is that the Central Committee will be holding a meeting on Monday, June 3rd at 6:30 to nominate a candidate to the governor. And this meeting is open to registered Democrats, either in person or via Zoom. All the details are in notices that you've received from the Central Committee and from the District 16 Club. And you can also obtain this information on the Central Committee website. I'm going to ask all members of the District 16 Club board. I noticed Judy Hallett's here, and I noticed Judy Hallett is here, and Melissa Bender are here, and if anybody else is here, to identify yourselves in the Q&A, as well as, of course, MCDCC members, Central Committee members, identify yourself in the Q&A, and elected officials, please identify yourselves in the Q&A because the chat is not available for observers to the call. So just to give you a little background, the District 16 Democratic Club, it supports the Democratic Party by having public events such as this one to connect elected officials and candidates with the community. Since the pandemic, our events have been on Zoom, but we're hoping to resume in-person events in the not too distant future. To support having these events, which we generally offer at no charge to attend, we do charge annual dues, which we have not done since the pandemic. But in the not too distant future, we'll be sending out a dues request to our email list. Dues have been quite low, and we hope to continue them being low. $15 annually for individuals and $25 annually for families. And as I mentioned, we hope to maintain this pricing. We also plan on holding elections for a new board and hope some of you will be interested in joining the board as we welcome additional board members. Now, in particular, we now have a vacancy for treasurer as Jean Granoff is stepping down. And I'm thinking within the next year to year and a half, I would like to step down as president. So it would be helpful to have a first vice president who can then succeed me as president. So that would be so. So if you're interested in either of those positions, please let me know. I'll now turn things over to our moderator, Karen Brito. As Saman mentioned, Karen is a former chair extraordinaire of the Montgomery County Democratic Central Committee and a former delegate to the Maryland General Assembly from District 16, where she donated her delegate salary to Montgomery County nonprofits, such as food banks and health organizations. Karen has a number of questions to ask of Delegate Love, and if you did not ask your questions when you registered for this forum, please put your questions in the Q&A. And with that, I'll turn it over to Karen.
Thank you very much. Thank you, MCDCC Chair Saman, and thank you, District 16 Club President Elliott. I just wanted to mention again the two delegates, our two District 16 delegates that are present for an important reason, because Delegate Mark Corman chairs the very, very important Environment and Transportation Committee, and it is so critical for District 16. So thank you, Delegate Mark Corman, for being here, and Delegate Sara Wolek, who is a member of the equally important Appropriations Committee, which is also extremely important to District 16. So welcome Delegates Corman and Wolek, and also thank you Teresa Warman, MCDCC member, and Jim Michaels, MCDCC member, for all the hard work you do in terms of party organizing in District 16. So we have one candidate for the position of District 16 Senate, and that is Delegate Sara Love. Delegate Love was first elected to the House of Delegates in 2018. She served on the Environment and Transportation Committee, and she served on the board of the ACLU of Maryland and on the board of NARAL Pro-Choice America. This evening, Delegate Love will have 3 minutes for opening remarks, up to 3 minutes to answer questions, and 2 minutes for closing remarks. And this evening's questions will range from legislative vacancies to infrastructure to education, etc. And the first question is, well, in terms of opening remarks, we would like you to include your experience, your accomplishments, and explain why you are qualified to be the next senator from District 16.
All in 3 minutes. Ready, set, go. Well, before I do that, I do want to express my thanks to the MCDCC for all that you do, and especially the D16 folks, Jim Michaels, Teresa Warman, and Marjorie Goldman, to Elliott and the entire D16 Democratic Club, to you, Karen, and to my team, to Mark and Sarah, who are here today, Gretchen Zekiel, who is listening in from Europe. So I'm not quite sure what time it is, but thank you, Gretchen, for being here to support me. That means a lot to me. So Karen just did a brief rundown. Many of you know who I am and a lot of what I've done, but since it's a candidate forum, I'll do a quick rundown as well. So as Karen mentioned, I was first elected in 2018 and then re-elected in 2022. Prior to serving in the House, I spent about 40 years in the reproductive rights field, from volunteer all the way through being general counsel of NARAL Pro-Choice America. After doing that, I spent 8 years at home with my kids. I have 2 kids, Nikki and Kenny, and they are far out of those young years now. And during those 8 years, I spent a lot of time at their schools, spent a lot of time in my neighborhood, started a Girl Scout troop, and I was also on the board of the ACLU of Maryland. And then after about, I guess, 8 years of that, they asked me to be their public policy director, which I said that I would. And I did that for 4 years and then ran for this seat. And I know Mark has heard this story many, many times, but I do want to repeat it here, because being here in this seat and seeking the Senate seat is something I have wanted my whole life. When I was young, I said to my mom that when I grow up, I want to help people. I want to become a lawyer and I want to run for office. And that's what I did. So this really is a lifelong dream. So thank you all, D16 voters, for giving me the opportunity to be here. When I was first elected to the House, the Speaker put me on the Environment and Transportation Committee, where I've been for the last 6 years. And I have really enjoyed working on that committee. I've learned a lot about all of the topics that that committee covers, from obviously environment and transportation, but housing and ethics and land use, agricultural, natural resources, and all of those. And I especially like it because it is really important to the D16 folks. When I was first running, one of the elder statesmen, shall we say, from our district said, you know, our district folks, they're very involved. They care about a lot of things. And top of their list is the environment, public education, choice, and guns. So it means a lot to me personally to serve on this committee, but also because it matters to the constituents. Shifting very quickly to Karen, you asked me to talk a little bit about some of my legislation. I won't go through the whole slate of it, but relating to the environment, I've been very lucky to be the lead House sponsor on a number of important bills. An update to our Forest Conservation Act, which was originally sponsored by D16's own Brian Frosch in the 1980s. A number of bills on PFAS, toxic forever chemicals. A really groundbreaking bill to pull together partnerships between landowners and conservation groups and private industry and local government and state agencies to do bigger, bolder conservation measures for the Chesapeake Bay. Away from the environmental space, I this last year successfully sponsored a bill on protecting our online data. And it was really a groundbreaking bill and helped to sort of break the logjam nationwide on other data privacy bills. And I've been really honored to sponsor 2 bills that come from our constituents, from honestly tragedies that happen to them, and plugging some loopholes in the law. But while I'm sure I'm just about done, Karen, I'll just close right here. I do want to say, while I was the lead sponsor in the House, I did not do these things alone. All of these bills take teamwork, and I've been so honored to work with my staff, with colleagues across the aisle, with colleagues across the chamber, and like I said, with my teammates who are fantastic. And I just want to close by saying I appreciate all of you being here. I hope to move over to the Senate and take all of these things that I've talked about, my background, my legislation, my teamwork, the constituent services, which I didn't get to touch on, but I hope that I will, and represent District 16 in the Senate. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Delegate Love. The next question is, It came in from a few people. What committees are you interested in serving on, and how would you respond if you don't get those committee assignments?
Well, funny you should ask that, because when I filled out the form, when you're first elected, you get a form from the speaker that asks your interest in a number of topics to try to figure out what committee you would want to be on. So I filled that out. And when I went in to meet with then Speaker Bush, I said that I wanted to be on the Judiciary Committee, because that's where I had recently spent most of my work. I had been at the ACLU. I'd been knee deep in police accountability and cannabis reform and getting the governor out of parole, all these things that I knew the judiciary was going to continue to tackle. He put me on environment and transportation. And I said, okay. And I put my head down and I did my work, and I have loved it. So all of that is to say that wherever I am put, I will put my head down, I will do my work, I will learn, and I will do my best to serve my constituents.
Thank you. Here's another question that came in from several people. As a state senator, would you support a bill to hold special elections for vacancies such as this one?
So last session, I was a co-sponsor of Delegate Foley's bill that would have had special elections that coincide with the presidential. So yes, I will support that again going forward.
Okay, next question. The caretaker approach has been recommended, whereby a person would essentially take on the legislative position when there is a vacancy and run and not pledge not to run in the gubernatorial year. Under what circumstances would you support the role of a caretaker?
Well, Karen, I think you you did a great job. You had a very short term. I don't know if I would call you a caretaker, but I'll be tough. I'll be honest. That's a tough question, because I find that a challenge, and I'll tell you why I'm not a big fan of the caretaker role. And that is because for two reasons. One is that you really eliminate the voter participation piece in all of it. So the voters don't get to choose on the front end, nor do they get the opportunity to choose the person on the back end. If that person chooses not to run again, that is their choice. But to say upfront, voters, you have no say whatsoever, I think is a challenge. And I think the other thing that gives me pause about a caretaker role is I am answerable to my constituents. My job is to represent them, to be their voice in Annapolis. And if they don't like what I do, then they get to vote for someone else and I'm out of a job. And I think if you have someone who is a caretaker, then they are not answerable to the constituents, because they're only there for a short period of time. So I have a challenge with, or I think that's the right way to say it. Yeah, a concern about a caretaker role.
Okay. Next question, also submitted. How do you plan to work together with organized labor and advance the rights of workers?
So the way I have been endorsed by a number of unions, and I'm very proud of that. I have supported, let's see, last year, I believe it was the community college collective bargaining bill. I was chair of our local committee, Montgomery County House Delegation, Land Use, Public Safety and Transportation local committee, and through that, we passed a bill to allow employees of the state's attorney's office to collectively bargain. Previously, we had passed allowing employees of the sheriff's office to collectively bargain. So I will continue to be a partner of labor.
Great. Next question. We are hearing that there have been adjustments to the education blueprint for Maryland's future. How did those adjustments affect Montgomery County? And do you pledge to be a strong advocate for District 16 in this area?
So yes, absolutely, I do. I'm not sure what adjustments they're referring to, and I will have to beg forgiveness. Being on the Environment and Transportation Committee and not on the Ways and Means Committee, I am not as familiar and as deeply in the weeds on the blueprint and the various adjustments. So I'm not quite sure what the questioner is referring to.
Okay. Next question. What do you think is the biggest issue affecting working families in District 16? And how will you seek to address these issues in Annapolis?
The biggest issue facing working families. Well, I can tell you that one of the biggest issues is childcare. And I know that a lot of my colleagues, including District 18 Delegate Jared Solomon, including former Senator Kelly, and a lot of others, have really worked on this issue. And I've supported their efforts on that because without childcare, then it's very hard for people to go back to the workforce. That was one of the things that we saw in COVID, that so many women had to leave the workforce to be home with their children, and they bore the brunt of having to step out of the workforce, and they bear the brunt while being in the workforce. So that is certainly a really big challenge for them.
Okay. Two questions on the Francis Scott Key Bridge, and take as much time as you need to answer them. The first question is, there are concerns about the cost of rebuilding the bridge. Can you address how the financing of the bridge will be accomplished? That's the first question. The secondary question is, it relates to employees impacted by the bridge shutdown. What did the legislature do to mitigate the impact on these employees? And did you play a role in advocating for these employees? So cost of the bridge and mitigation of the employee impact of the employees who worked on the bridge.
So this is why I love the town halls, because we have a wide variety of knowledge among the three of us. Prior, it was the four of us. I don't sit on the appropriations committee, so I don't know all of how the financing will go. I do know that the federal government has pledged funds. Now, whether they will fully fund it like they did in Minnesota, I don't know. And I was trying to find the details of the Port Act that we passed in my notes here, because we did address some of the workers and funding for them, some bridge funding as they were out of work and trying to, while we were trying to reopen the port. What role did I play in that? I supported that bill. That came from, I believe, that came from President Ferguson and Judiciary Committee Chair Clippinger, both of whom are from Baltimore City. So that was led by those two folks, and I voted for it.
Okay. We keep hearing that somewhere between $1 billion or somewhere around $1 billion was brought home to Montgomery County as a result of the legislative session. Can you tell us how those funds impacted District 16 and how you will work diligently to bring funds home to the district if you serve as the senator?
You know, again, I wish I could phone a friend, because Mark Corman would have that at his fingertips. And I do know that both Mark and Sara, and honestly, I can't remember if I posted that on Facebook outlining the details, and I'm happy to quickly look that up for folks. And that's going to be a really interesting thing if I move from the House to the Senate. In the House, we're very siloed in our committees. And we're not only siloed in our committees, we're siloed into our subcommittees. So you can ask me any question about any bill that was in the Motor Vehicles and Transportation Committee, and I can tell you details about it. So some of the financing stuff, not as much, but hopefully if I do become to go to the Senate, then I will be able to be deeper into more of the legislation. So my phoning a friend folks have actually reached out to me and told me that I did share it in my end of year letter, that we, let's see, 3 million to the North Bethesda Metro Station second entrance, 2.7 million to the Walt Whitman High School upgrades, 440,000 to the Diener School disability access, 150,000 to the town of Glen Echo stormwater restoration project, 3 million to the University System of Maryland Institute of Health Computing in North Bethesda, 150,000 to the Merrimack Neighborhood Park renovation, 150,000 to the Bethesda Meeting House renovation, and 100,000 to Jewish Social Services Agency, Jewish Social Services Agency Mobile Mental Health Unit. So that's what we did this past year, and I look forward to being more engaged on the finances if I go over to the Senate.
Okay, thank you. The Empower Maryland Energy Efficiency Act that promotes greater energy savings, protects ratepayers, and helps to relieve Maryland homes and buildings with 100% clean, renewable energy. Have you played a role in promoting energy efficiency?
So I support that bill, and I have, in terms of the work that we've done on our committee, as well as supporting legislation that has come out of the Economic Matters Committee, a lot of legislation by my colleague, District 20 Delegate Laura Charkoudian. Interestingly, actually, while we did not pass the Empower Act, Vermont just did. So hopefully we can follow them and pass it next session.
Thank you. Next question. We understand that a bill passed to create a grant funding program for reproductive health clinics to bolster security at their facilities. The bill gives the governor around $500,000 to go towards clinics that offer abortion services, as pro-abortion advocates say violence and vandalism at these facilities have increased since the overturning of the federal abortion protections in Roe versus Wade. What actions have you taken in the legislature to protect a woman's right to choose?
So I have, let's see, what actions have I taken in the legislature?
Or in general, or in legislature, or in general.
Yeah, so in the legislature, I have voted for all of the bills that we have passed to support and protect a woman's right to choose. I was one of the key leaders supporting then Delegate Ariana Kelly when she was the lead sponsor of the Abortion Care Access Act. One of the brain trust people really working behind the scenes with her, also spoke on the floor. Outside of the legislature, in 2022, when we knew that Dobbs was coming out and that Roe was going to fall, we also knew there wasn't a substantial ground game supporting pro-choice candidates at that time. I started, together with Gretchen Zekiel and my former chief of staff, Selena Raleigh, Stand Up Maryland, which is a project of my campaign. And we brought together 16 fellows. I partnered Stand Up Maryland with Representative Raskin's Democracy Summer program. So our fellows got to participate in Democracy Summer webinars. Then I created special Maryland-based content. So when Democracy Summer talked about labor, for example, I talked about labor in Maryland. And one of the speakers I brought in was Senator McCray, as someone who is part of an electricians union. I crafted a special day to talk all about reproductive rights and to educate the students on the history of the right to privacy and why Dobbs was wrong. I brought them to Annapolis to meet the speaker and to take a tour there. And every weekend they canvassed, and they canvassed in 6 campaigns where pro-choice candidates were up against anti-choice candidates. And all 6 of our candidates won. This year, we are bringing back Stand Up Maryland, and they will be out canvassing for the ballot initiative, because this fall, and I hope everybody is listening, we will be able to put reproductive freedom into our Declaration of Rights in our Constitution, and we need everybody to go out and vote. So again, we will partner with Democracy Summer, and then the fellows will go out and canvass. And I can talk a lot more about what I have done on reproductive rights, but I think it'll take too long because I started when I was 10, stuffing envelopes for my mom, who was then president of Chicago Planned Parenthood. So it's a long history.
Okay. The next one is more of a statement than a question. An individual would like to thank you for your efforts to pass the Sara Langenkamp Memorial Act that'll impose the same penalties for hitting a cyclist in a bike lane as for hitting a pedestrian or cyclist in a crosswalk.
Thank you for saying that. That was my honor. And I, again, it was teamwork. Could not have done it without our chair, without my staff, and it was cross-filed by Senator Kelly. So we are very, very appreciative of the teamwork and glad that we were able to pass it this year. Thank you.
Great. The next question is on protection of election workers. We understand that a bill passed with bipartisan support in both chambers of the Assembly, and the law creates a new misdemeanor charge for those who threaten election officials or their families. And a recent poll by the Brennan Center found that 45% of local election officials said that they fear for the safety of their colleagues. Across the country, election administrators have left their profession in droves. Everyone wants to make sure that you will continue to support bills that protect election workers and their families.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Election workers, I think, are some of the unsung important people in our election system. They need to be able to do their work. They need to be able to do it safely and without fear. And we need to be able to recruit more election workers, because it's hard to get people to work at the polls. And by ensuring that they are not threatened, that they are safe, we can continue to try to recruit election workers. As a matter of fact, on election day, when I brought my son, a first-time voter, one of my constituents had a really interesting idea about a way to get more election workers. So stay tuned.
Okay, thank you. There's something called the Climate Solutions Now Act, which people have talked a great deal about. And there seems to be some controversy around the activities that took place in the 2024 legislative session. Can you give us some background on that?
Sure. I think they may be referring to some questions about data centers. Yeah. And there was some concern about language that was brought in at the end. And in the end, there was a compromise that was made where everyone, the folks that had been the most vocal in their concern, stood down. That said, I think what I really want to talk about a little bit more, having been on the committee when we passed that act, was the important and very careful and thoughtful work that we did. And there is going to be push and pull, because those were goals. And I did then, I continue to be, and I will continue to be, a strong advocate for fulfilling those goals to their entirety. I know that the chair has said that one of his top priorities is following through on what Climate Solutions Now did, and I join him in that and will continue to do that, hopefully from the Senate side.
Okay, that is the end of the submitted in advance questions. Elliot, do you have any questions from the Q&A?
Yeah, thank you, Karen. So far we have only one question, which is from Judy Hallett, a member of the District 16 Club Board. She's eager to hear from Delegate Love with her thoughts on working together with other Montgomery County state senators on such issues as anti-Semitism in county schools and funding for preschool programs.
Well, I will say first off, I want to work with all senators and all House members on combating anti-Semitism, anti-Muslim sentiments, anti-Arab sentiments, on all bigotry and discrimination across the board. And also, what was the second part on funding for preschool programs? Yes, we absolutely need to fully fund our preschool programs. I mean, the amount of data that is out there about the importance of early education, and that is one of the pillars of the blueprint. So we need to continue to fund that.
Okay, now Delegate Love.
Actually, we have one more
Okay.
question. Diana Conway, president of the Women's Democratic Club of Montgomery County, asks, "What will you miss most about the House?"
What will I miss most about the House? The people. You actually don't see as much of the people in the opposite chamber than you think that you would. And there are amazing people in the chamber. This last session, I got to sit between Chair Corman and Vaughn Stewart from District 19. And in the past, I've sat next to Delegate Charkoudian from District 20 and Delegate Fraser Hidalgo and Delegate Solomon. And there are really, really special people in the House. They are hardworking, they are kind, they are team players, they care about the work that they do. So I think that is, if I my name is put forward by the MCDCC and I'm appointed by the governor, and I move over to the Senate, that is what I will miss the most.
Elliot, is that the last question?
Yep, that's the last question.
Delegate Love, you have 2 minutes closing remarks.
So I don't have anything prepared for my closing because I really just want to say thank you again. I love this job. It's been an honor to serve District 16 over these last 6 years, and I look forward to continuing to serve District 16 in whatever manner you allow me to do so. It's a great group of folks, all the folks that I met at the doors, all the folks that are involved, that are here today, that were on our town hall before. So just thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for your support of me, and thank you for all that you do out there in the community.
Thank you, Delegate Love. I just want to reiterate that Wednesday, May 29th is the deadline to submit statements in support of your candidate. And on Monday, June 3rd at 6:30 p.m., the MCDCC will meet on this nomination. I'd also like to acknowledge, there's a couple more Central Committee members on the line. I'd like to acknowledge Sarah Brand, thank you for participating, Jennifer Hosey, thank you, and Pam Luckett. We also have David Naiman, who is chair of the Montgomery County Board of Elections. Thank you again, Delegate Love, and I'll turn the program over to Elliot Greenwald, District 16 Club President, for closing remarks.
Okay, well, thank you, Karen. I think everybody has said everything I was going to say in the closing remarks, except to thank a few people. I want to thank our moderator, Karen Brito, for doing an excellent job as always. I want to thank our delegate, Sara Love, for her participation in this panel and the work that she's done in the House of Delegates over the last, I guess, about around 6, 7 years now. And want to thank, I want to thank Saman for opening this session and for her leadership on the Central Committee, and for the various elected officials and Central Committee members who are on the on the call for the important work that you do every day. So thank you, everybody, and thank you to everybody for attending this forum. And as Karen mentioned, the next steps will be writing recommendations and attending the Central Committee meeting on June 3rd.
All right. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you and good night.